Well, we are looking at Deuteronomy chapter 20. You can see my notes from yesterday's. Deuteronomy chapter 20 and going to war. This chapter and this topic is one that there's a live debate within the church. The two usual positions are just war and pacifism. Just war, I'm going to use my other screen here that you can't see just to remind myself of the points of just war. And again, there's lots of nuances within those who hold to a just war position. Here's the question. Is it okay for Christians to go to war? And so while there's multiple different kinds of theories amongst non-Christian perspectives related to war, within the church largely is just war and pacifism. Just war, according to my Got Questions website, there's 5 requirements for a war to be just, in which case it would then be legitimate for a Christian to go to war. A just war is declared by a legitimate government. I'm not a legitimate government official, so I do not have the capacity to declare war on Collingwood, and because of that, no one should follow me. It's that it has to be a legitimate government. A just war is an act of last resort. So just war does not see war as good. It's allowed if certain criteria are met, one being last resort. Every other option has been exhausted. There's nothing left but armed conflict. Third point, a just war is fought for a just cause. Again, what is a just cause? That's its own conversation, but just the idea, a war is not being fought because we like Collingwood's waterfront and we want it. That's not just. If it was, for example, a government is encroaching on our territory or is attacking our citizens or is ethnically cleansing an aspect within its own nation, that could be argued as potentially being a just cause. So just to give some examples, a just war seeks, here's a prudent goals, basically meaning that the goals for the war, the outcomes are not foolish, are not kind of outsized. So it's, in the case of, we just want to get that country or that group to stop killing these citizens. That's the goal. It's a bite-sized goal, or we want them to go back from their territory, or we're just going to look to remove this illegal government. And once that's done, then we're going to help kind of rebuild. We're not there to carpet bomb or to annihilate the people. And the last one of just war is it uses moral means. And so like not attacking citizens, not attacking hospitals or infrastructure. As we'll see, Israel's told in this chapter, you can chop down trees, but not food trees. You're not allowed to do anything that's going to harm the economic, the food production of the area, because you may not occupy the land afterwards, and you need to allow the people to still survive and thrive. This is not about annihilating. So that's just war, that it's allowable if certain criteria are met. And again, sometimes there's conversation related to what those criteria exactly are, but that's just more than I can get into or want to get into here. Pacifism, simply put, pacifism is the belief that war of any kind is morally unacceptable. It is just, violence is never the answer to anything, and violence will just bring about more violence in the end. And so pacifism is a position that finding nonviolent ways to try to address conflict. Again, the question here is, what is the appropriate position for a Christian? it's a live debate. One thing I just want to say about this debate, two things. Whatever perspective you have on that, and I'm not going to give mine here because it's not really kind of the purpose of this devotional or this kind of venue and forum. But we need to take into consideration, whatever our position, that what the instructions given to the nation of Israel at this time, the church today is not the same type of community. That time, Israel was a political nation. It was a particular political group. It was a nation. The church today is not a nation. We are a people that are within every nation and to be of every tribe, tongue, and so on. So we have to be careful of what kind of parallels we want to make between Old Testament commands and New Covenant reality. The other is we have to seriously consider what position fits the ethic of Jesus. And that's something that sometimes even both sides of this argument sometimes don't take seriously the teaching of Jesus, which sounds silly. I mean, we're Christians. Can we just say that sometimes Jesus' teaching is a little bit impractical or inconvenient to things that we like or things that we think would work best? He's Lord, though. We need to take his teaching seriously. A couple things I want to highlight about this chapter. Again, peace was to be given. If the enemy said, we surrender, you had to accept. That was what the instruction was given. No scorched earth policy. You're not leaving behind people with an inability to feed themselves. Only those who are confident in God needed to participate in war. It's kind of an interesting thing. It was, volunteer army, because it was God who was going to see the battle won and done. That's the Old Testament model. Israel showed up. God won the battle. And there was some exception to some of these provisions only for those nations within the promised land who were part of some of the practices that we've talked about in previous devotionals, because if they weren't removed, they would influence the people towards idolatry and all of its ills. Where do I want to come to for today's devotional? It'd be kind of easy to go to, I encourage you to think through your perspective on a Christian's role in regards to violence and the state and war. Something to think about. Again, it's a live debate. I do have my perspective, but if you're wanting to talk about that or have questions, connect with me. We can talk. Love to hear what your perspective is. I'll finish with this. When it came to war, only those who were committed were kind of called to participate. And just the language there reminded me of Jesus calling to us of being a disciple. It's a high cost. It's a high calling, and it requires a high commitment. No one in Deuteronomy 20, Moses' day, the Old Covenant, going to war, even going to war today, no soldier would go to war with anything less than a solid commitment to carry out their duty. They have a squad, they have a team, they have, companions that are relying on them. There's a commitment that is required to be a soldier. There's a commitment that's required to be a disciple of Jesus. Because both callings can cost us our lives. Both callings have a capacity to save lives. How are we today? How are you today called to follow Jesus and to live out that commitment? It means denying ourselves, taking up our cross daily, and following him. As you do that, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you. May the Lord be gracious to you and today would you know his peace. God bless.